Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed. They zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sadi's on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah, yo, Sadi behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in. Teddy, yeah. Let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind. Teddy, yep, yeah. CiottiFPV, yeah. Teddy spaghetti, diamond at duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed. Zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Teddy spaghetti, Teddy and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed. Zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotti and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPVs, fur-faced legends, legends singing loud. Yeah, Teddy spaghetti and CiottiFPV always proud. Yeah.
What's up, people? My name's Aaron Ciotti. I couldn't find this damn LED light. Hang on. We're almost ready. Welcome to Freestyle Friday. You were just watching the, hey, there we go. You were just watching the 2-inch rig whopping around. Any stuttering is because I was playing those files directly off of the, DJI Air unit. I don't really need those two files. I wasn't flying all that great or anything, so I'm just going to move to trash and then delete the trash. So those were directly off the quad. We are going to be taking a look tonight at the flight footage from the goggles so that you can see the OSD and so that we can see the RPM that this thing pulled. what you were just watching was the first battery there was the 2-inch. Can I unplug this yet? Yes. Eject and unplug. That was the Mobula8 O4, basically, is what the first battery was. This is a Mobula7 O4 center section, AIO, basically. Yeah, the AIO is the only thing left from it now. So the Mobula7 O4 AIO, DJI O4 Lite. This is a 3D printed canopy meant for these Flywoo O4 Lite camera holders that have little bayonet mounts on the outside here in the front, so that you can take the Flywoo ND filters and attach them in a way that they don't pop off. And so now you've got a setup that'll accept ND filters. I need to get this this whip antenna off of here and do an ORT micro V on here. That's the one problem with this thing, is that when I fly like this, I am in the null of this antenna and the camera is in the way. Or when I do this, I'm in the null of the antenna, but the camera's not in the way. So basically, like, when I fly this thing far away and I look back at myself, oh, I broke the frame. I'll be damned. Look back at myself, the video will stutter a little bit because, you know, again, we're pointing the null of the antenna at ourselves, and there's also the camera in the way. A ORT micro V will put the it's got that 120 degree angle, so it'll put some of the antenna a little bit vertically here, and it shouldn't be such a bad null directly to the front. That's a bummer that this frame broke. I'm going to E6000 it back together this time and see how it holds up. Sorry, the rest of this build. So yeah, Mobula7 O4 AIO, DJI O4 Lite, 3D printed canopy, Flywoo camera holder. I did not have the ND filters on because I flew that like an hour ago, so around like 6 o'clock. The light had come down enough. The full flight that you watched was on basically Mobula8 motors. These are the motors that Happy Model puts on the Mobula8. These are Happy Model 1103 11,000 kV. And the propellers are these awesome Gemfan 2023S. This has been the setup for this rig for a while now, and it's absolutely awesome. The only thing I didn't love about it is that at 11,000 kV, that's a little bit low for these motors, even on 2S. Also that you were watching a 420 mAh battery, Flywoo 2S 420 with an XT30. With the triblades and the prop guards, it's cool because it's really accurate, and it's like a razor blade, and you can carve, you know, super straight lines through stuff, and it's just ultra accurate. But when the wind was blowing, or when oh god, the computer just got upset because I ejected it. Or when you do like off throttle moves, when you wanted a little bit more slide, it didn't give it to you because of the tri-blade props. It's bad enough that we've got the ducts, but then also with tri-blade props, it didn't have enough slide. And so Project Mockingbird very kindly donated $80 when I figured out that Flywoo makes these Robo 1003 14,800 kV motors. 14,800 kV should be enough, I thought, to run these Gemfan 2015 biblades. So 2015 is a lot less pitchy than 2023, right? 1.5 inches of pitch versus 2.3 inches of pitch. And also, they're biblades. And so they'll be a lot more slidey. Still not super slidey because we've got the guards, right? The prop guards on these tinywhoops make them very accurate and make them really track dead straight, which means that you can shoot lots of tight gaps, and it's just a really cool flight experience. It slows them down a little bit. So when you fly small spaces like out in front of your house, that small area feels a lot bigger because the quad is slower because it's an aerodynamic disaster, right? Look at all the space that these guards take up. That's going to make it very slow versus like a toothpick, for example. There's not all that guard there, and so this thing just carves through the wind. Well, that makes a toothpick faster, but what happens when you go to turn? It just keeps sliding and sliding and sliding because there's no wind resistance here. Versus one of the really cool things about tinywhoops is when you turn them, it's like a bus turning sideways, and so it slows down and it just rips the corner. For me, somebody that flies very cinematic, I fly very flat. And so this works really well with the way that I fly. I don't turn these things up like this to corner like a lot of the racers do because I want the horizon line to stay flat. So that when you run it through stabilization software, or if you just don't run it through stabilization software, it's not such a roller coaster. Half of my income comes from flying gigs. Cinematic flying gigs, and so I can't deliver footage where I'm rocking all over the damn place. They're not going to be able to edit that in with all the other footage that they're getting from static cameras or steady cams where the horizon line is pretty much always level. And so for my flying style, the tinywhoops are just a blast because I can corner nice and flat, and this aerodynamic disaster here will slow it down and get it to actually go the direction that it's pointed. So I've been having such a blast flying these things around. And yeah, that's this setup. That's what you watched. You watched a full battery with the 1103s on the triblades, and then you watched just the very beginning of the battery with the Flywoo Robo 1103 14,800s. At 100%, these I might actually motor limit these down a little bit because 14,800 kV is a lot on 2S. And yeah, I'm gonna play the flight footage off of the goggles so that we can take a look at the RPM that these things turned at fully charged battery, full throttle, ripping across the lawn. And I'm going to talk to you more about sort of like the flight characteristics and what it was like to fly these two things back to back, because that's really what matters. I forgot to weigh the damn thing. Damn it. I forgot to weigh it with the other motors on it. We went from an 1103 to a 1003. So it absolutely got lighter. We also went from triblades to biblades, so it will have gotten lighter on the biblades as well. Damn it! I can't believe I forgot. That's annoying. I had the thought earlier today, like make sure you weigh it before you change the motors and props out. Don E with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Incredibly generous. He says thanks for being you. Thanks for allowing me to be me. This is a totally crowd-funded thing that we got going here. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com. Join the Patreon. That's the absolute best way that you can support me. Also, there's going to be a really cool Patreon video coming. One of the perks to joining Patreon is you'll get a link to a private playlist on YouTube with almost 100 Patreon-only things. Half-done edits that I'm asking for your guys' advice on. Patreon-only live streams. Sketchy flying that I don't necessarily want to be public. And then, just things that I do specifically for the patrons. Earlier today, I flew the... Oh, look at that. Oh, no, I did that. That's right. I flew the Analog 2S 1.6-inch build. X12 AIO, BT 3.0, 2S 300 mAh batteries. Super, super, super fun. It now has a CO3 camera in it. I flew a bunch of batteries on this, and I dove into... So, the X12 AIO has always had issues with dynamic idle, the motor idle control in the PID tab. And I don't know if this is just a 2S thing, but definitely when you run 2S on the X12, I've not been able to get the dynamic idle to work, and I've always just had to use the regular idle in the motors tab of Betaflight. Which is fine. That's not the end of the world. But the dynamic idle is really nice. It will slow the motors down. There are some definite advantages to it. And so earlier today, I spent a couple of hours actually trying to figure out how to get that to work because on a stream last week, I guess it was, somebody in the chat pointed out that in the CLI, there is a dynamic idle startup value that you can increase. The default value is 50, the maximum is 255. And so during that live stream, or maybe it was the live stream after that, I took one of the 1S beta FPV tinywhoops, 1.2 inch props, that I've always not been able to use the dynamic idle on because when you would arm it, it wouldn't spin the motors all the way up. The motors would just twitch. And I increased that value, and on that rig, that made me able to use the dynamic idle, which was awesome. So I tried to do that on this earlier today, and I had some really weird results, and I kind of chronicled it all with my HD0 goggles that have a microphone built in. And so I'm going to take all that flight footage off the HD0 goggles. I'm going to just dump it into Premiere, chop it up super rough, and you patrons are going to be able to come with me on a journey of understanding dynamic idle, trying to get it to work on this, understanding the weirdness with adjusting the dynamic idle in the quad's OSD, like just landing, going into the OSD and adjusting the dynamic idle in there. And then understanding the difference and getting to see the difference between the dynamic idle setting and the dynamic idle startup power setting, because they do two completely different things. And you need to tune them individually. Like on the 1.2 inch build, basically I just happened to get lucky, and the only problem was the dynamic idle startup percent being too low. And so bumping that from 50 to 70 fixed the problems, and like the dynamic idle in the PIDs tab is high enough for that thing to fly totally fine. On this guy, that's not the case. I can bump up that startup value and get the motors to start up reliably, but I still can't get the dynamic idle high to play ball. I basically can't get it high enough without it having an idle that's too high, essentially. Patrons, you'll have a video that really dives into that and kind of, totally explains that, and you'll have a much better understanding of those two things. So yeah, check that out. I'll get that up maybe tonight. Maybe not, but maybe tonight. This build, the scale has turned on. This build, as it sits with no ND filter, is 48.7 grams dry. And then with the Flywoo 420 mAh battery, it's 69.9 grams, so 70 grams. I also ran it on a GNB 380, and it did really well. I've heard a lot of people bag on this GNB yellow 380 mAh cell, but this thing ran totally fine on it. What? Why is it 70 grams? What? Well, that would explain why it ran totally fine on it. I don't know if either this isn't actually a 380 or this isn't actually a 420, because two batteries that have the same length. Wait a second. It's the same battery. Okay. So Flywoo is white. I'm not sure of this, but I'll show you why I'm saying this in a second. Flywoo is white labeling these GNB 380s as 420, which, look, they made it green and black, and so I'm okay with it. It's the weed number. None of these the C ratings are all. Let's see if they're saying the same C rating. Write it nice and small so I can't see it. Oh, they didn't even put the C rating. They didn't even put the C rating on here. They might as well not. The C rating, none of the C ratings mean anything. But look, these two batteries weigh exactly the same, and the only way to, well, not the only way, but like the main way to make a battery have more milliamp hours in it is to make it bigger. But look, these are exactly the same size. These wires are exactly the same length. These balance leads are exactly the same length. The balance leads are black, which is kind of rare. The XT30 leads are also black, which is kind of rare. Usually they're yellow. So yeah, these are the same batteries. I can almost certainly tell you. They flew exactly the same, and they got the exact same runtime, and they weigh exactly the same. So yeah, these are the same batteries. That's actually kind of cool because these Flywoo 420s are a little bit hard to find. You're gonna find them because you want your battery to say 420 and be green, you degenerate. But if you're doing an order from a website that doesn't sell these, which is most websites, and they do have these GNB 380 2S's, just get these. Race Day Quads has these. That's where I got this one from, I'm pretty sure. I forget who sells these Flywoo batteries. But yeah, well, that's cool. I've got 3 of these identical batteries now. So yeah, 70 grams all up, 2-inch, with a broken frame. I'm going to hit this frame a little bit of E6000 real quick. I should have some black E6000 in here, right? Yep, there it is. It's actually it's T7000. It is a little bit different than E6000. So from tinywhoop.com, you can get clear E6000. Definitely get this. It's got a little precision point tip on it, so you can just put the E6000 exactly where you need it and not where you don't need it at all. You need this. This is an absolute necessity. And this is just like every other E6000 you've ever run, or welder is what E6000 gets called by this one company. It's awesome stuff. You need it. You love it. You put it on. It's very similar to hot glue, but when it gets really hot, it doesn't like release like hot glue does. So it's way better in heat than hot glue. But when you go to peel it peels it off like hot glue, in that it comes off in one big chunk. So this is amazing. You have to have this. On tinywhoop, they've also got T7000, which is black in color, but it's a little bit different. When this dries, when you put E6000 on and you make like a nice blob of it on top of your UFL port, on top of your UFL plug that rolls down to the board so that your UFLs don't come unplugged. If you make a blob of it that looks like this is the plug. If you make a blob that looks like this, when it dries, it looks like this. This T7000, if you make a blob like this, when it dries, it'll dry like that. Some of the liquid in it seems to like evaporate out of it. It still peels off totally fine, but yeah, for whatever reason, it's just ever so slightly different. So you don't necessarily want to think of it as just black E6000, because if you're specifically putting it so like the battery trays on these tinywhoop frames, sometimes you're running a very specific battery that doesn't quite fit perfectly in the frame and it rattles around a little bit. So you can take E6000 and you can just run a little bead of it around the inside of the little battery bay here to add a little bit of thickness, and then the battery won't rattle around. Well, if you do that with the T7000 and you run a bead that looks like this, it's going to flatten out a little bit. So just kind of like understand that if you're using this T7000. I'm not using it for that purpose. I'm just using it to stick this frame together, and so it's going to be totally fine for me to kind of use it like this. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the tube. It's just like E6000. This is going to be very boring for anyone that's used E6000, but hey, I want to get this on here because I am flying this tomorrow night at Atlanta Pride. And E6000 takes some time to cure. And so I can't see a goddamn thing in my 44 years of age now. And so I need to put on these slightly magnified goggles here. So we're just going to And if this is not focusing, tough shit. You'll be fine. So we're just going to squeeze a bunch of this on here because I do want it to kind of like squish outwards. All right, so I'm going to push that together. And now I'm going to put a nice blob of it on the outside here. And having this fine tip is really nice because you can just kind of like squidge it around there. All right, so we got a nice bead going. And now I'm going to hit the inside as well. And so we're just going to squeeze a bunch of it in here. I'm going to keep it down so that the prop doesn't catch on it. I'm going to keep the blob as far down on this strut as I possibly can. And then I'm also going to try to wrap this blob a little bit on the corners here. Just get as much on there as I can within reason. There we go. Cool. That's looking pretty good. And so now I just need to figure out a way to hold this, keep this duct pushed up. And so I think I'm going to put this upside down over here with like something on top of it. Oh, God. So speaking of E6000 repairs, I used the white E6000, which for some reason is green, to try to repair these 2.5x magnified goggles here. Ooh, okay. So I can put it on top of this Tinywhoop container, and then I just need to put something. Well, you know what? No, that's actually staying in place perfect. I don't think I actually need to put anything on there. I do want just a little bit of weight pushing down on it, though, so I should have this. Yeah, I got this tiny little clothespin from tinywhoop.com, actually. And I'm just going to put this here. It's not going to stay on there, is it? Yeah, it is. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Is that doing anything? No, that's good. Hold on. Let me take a quick look at this, just to make sure that the duct is in the right sort of position. Now, yeah, I need something to push down on it just a little bit more. So I'm gonna leave that on there, but then that'll I can put a little bit of weight right there. And so let me put this right here, and then I need something that's got some weight to it. How about these motors? These motors got some weight to them. So I'm gonna stack one motor up here like this. Perfect. Ultra janky, just the way I like it. Maximum jank factor. Now, let me take, what do I have that's got a little bit more weight to it? This motor's got some weight to it. This is fine. This is fine. I'm going to put this motor right here. And it's just going to push down on that a little bit. And that should hold it just barely in place. Maybe. Whatever. I will replace that frame at some point. I really wish there was another frame option for 2-inch Tinywhoops. The HGLRC frame sucks, and none of the flight controllers fit in it. It's also damn near impossible to get the motors, to get a 3-bolt motor into the damn thing. So yeah, don't get that. It also uses a rubber bands to hold the battery in, which I find to be infuriating. And so yeah, don't buy that. That's kind of it, though. I don't know of any other 2-inch Tinywhoop frames that are set up to hold 2S batteries. Luckily, these Mobula8 frames are cheap. They hold the battery perfectly. So just get a bunch of them. It's super annoying to have to swap them out, though, because you gotta pull all the motors off. Can you get in there, motherfucker? Get in your home! Get in there! There it goes. Okay. T7000. Not just black E6000, but still really good to have. Nice to have. I do not recommend this T5000 white. It's actually green for some reason, as you can see here. It doesn't seem to be shrinking up like the T7000 though. Like I made a great big bead of it, and it's still a big thick bead. Ooh, this feels pretty strong. I super glued this on the stream a couple streams ago, and it lasted for a couple days, but then it broke again. And so now I did a giant thick bead of this E6000, white-ish green E6000. And this feels really strong, actually. So hopefully they'll be fixed. Otherwise, I'll have to buy another set. Things are breaking lately. What's that about? Stop breaking things. Hey, this is a 6 battery live stream, so get your 6 batteries on, my friends. Don't let me be the only one having fun tonight. Fly your daily 6 tinywhoop batteries, and you'll be a better pilot for it. I promise you. It's all about consistency. It's all about putting the time in. You can do it, yo. It feels good to improve as a pilot, but it's very difficult, especially like as you get better, it becomes more and more difficult to improve. And so you got to work a little bit harder. And a part of that is going to be having a daily flight sort of regimen. And so there you go. Fly your 6 batteries today, and tomorrow you will thank today you. Wait, yesterday you. But that's actually today you. Know what I'm saying? I got more 1.46 millimeter drill bits in stock. So those are back in stock on the Etsy store. I've been putting lots of stuff up on the Etsy store, so go check it out. Lots more stuff coming. It's linked over at CiottiFPV.com. Lots of new 3D printed mounts going up over there. All kinds of good stuff. You'll see. Get your ass over there. Check out the Etsy store. There's probably something that you might want. Support me by buying yourself something nice. It's Friday. Maybe you got paid today. Do some retail therapy and support somebody that's going to tell you what to buy and what not to buy, which hopefully saves you some money. What else is happening? That's about it. If you know anybody that has an iFlight Defender 16 or 1.6, I've got some extra stuff for them. Extra frame. I think it might be broken. But yeah, some extra stuff that they might want. It's also got the carrying case in there. If you want to check out, if you have HD0 goggles and you want to check out the Newbie Drone foam for the HD0 goggles, I will send this to you for just the price of shipping. The adhesive on just the top of the nose part is starting to let go from the foam, so I replaced them. But other than that, these are totally fine. And, you know, for $5, check it out, see if you like it, and then if you love it, you can buy yourself a fresh one, or just use these. I was using these and they were totally fine. There you go. There's what I got for you for insanely cheap. My custom length perfect for tinywhoops ORT micro Vs are all back in stock on the Etsy store. Black, white, red, blue, and yellow. All the colors, custom length, perfect for whoops, with a little bit of extra 2 millimeters of extra shrink wrap right here, which will allow you to kind of stick it into the frame so that it's not so wobbly from the wire. The shrink wrap is going to keep it a little bit more solid. Very, very cool little... The main thing is the length. Like, you can get these in 30 millimeters, you can get them in 50 millimeters. A lot of times 30 millimeters is a little too short, 50 millimeters is a little too long. 46 is absolutely perfect. I would actually love to do like 42 or 44. That would be even more sort of perfect, but I'm afraid that doing that makes the cable just a little bit too short, and if you hit the antenna head just wrong, I'm afraid that it'll yank on the antenna, on the UFL, and maybe rip the UFL off, maybe rip the antenna off. So 46 millimeters it's kind of perfect in that it gives you that little bit of extra leeway. So yeah, score yours today. That's a weird thing to say. I regret having said that a second ago. Wednesday's stream, we did some really cool motor testing, and I dug out a bunch of my older Tinywhoop 0802 Frankenstein motors, 30,000, 27. Well, the 30,000s are actually gone, but I've got a 27,000 here, and I've got, I actually don't know what, these might both be 27,000s. We retested the 33,000s, and so I want to retest these 27,000s as well, just to beef up that spreadsheet and just kind of double check some stuff on it. Patrons, you have access to that spreadsheet, which is called, you're going to hit Tech Tips, and that's how you're going to find it. CiottiFPV Tinywhoop data is the name of the spreadsheet. Matter of fact, here, I'll make it easier for you. Patreon.com/CiottiFPV. Create new post. And we're going to call this CiottiFPV Tinywhoop data spreadsheet. I'm going to use the tag Tech Talk. There are 40 posts that are tagged with Tech Talk. There's a link to the spreadsheet. Here is the link up on top. And paid access, all tiers. Awesome. There you guys go. Now you don't have to dig for it. An email just went out to all patrons with this spreadsheet. It's also going to be the first post on the actual Patreon page, so that you don't have to go digging around for it. There are a couple of different tabs down at the bottom that you'll see with like weights and motor heights, and then RPM, motor RPM, KV, power testing that I've done on 2 different occasions, 8/18/2024 and 11/17/2024. There you go, people. In the chat, Mike K was first, FizzPV was next, Brian Kirk, you could, capital C, you can FPV, Tamava, Brian Kirk, Uriel, Sporny. I'm fighting off a yawn. Islander FPV, Brent Anderson, Jason Levin, Goated 04, capital C, Islander again, Cole Powers, Levster, what's up, everybody? Chat's acting weird, but thanks for coming, thanks for hanging, thanks for supporting me, let me do this full time for so long. It's been a blast. Let's keep it going, yo. Let's do this forever. Let me get caught up on chat, and then we will take a look at the goggle DVR footage and talk more about 2-inch Tinywhoops. What motors I really like, and yeah. I can't think of anything else to say in reference to that. We're going to dive into it in a little bit. Hey, if you want to talk to me in the chat, type CiottiFPV or at CiottiFPV into your chat comment. Got to spell it right. Islander FPV says, did you ever end up ordering the 2-inch HQ prop 1.5 pitch biblades? Let's take a look. I left the 2-inch props out. I only had time to... And I'm most excited for these GemFan 2015s, mainly because they're thick bitches. This 2-inch Tinywhoop is getting a little heavy with the 04 on 04 light on board, with the 3D printed canopy, with the ND filter hanging off the front. So I really wanted to run these GemFan 2015s because they're nice and stout. The hub is really well made. And yeah, I want this thing to be durable so that I can fly it in sketchy spots and never worry about a propeller exploding and losing the entire quad. Also, it's an expensive build, right? This is like a almost $300 build with the 04 on board and all that jazz. I've got a whole bunch of 2-inch props here. So here are, it's kind of annoying. I just stocked up on these 2023 S triblades. I still like the way that it flies with the Happy Model 1103 11,000s. So, but yeah, I certainly don't need this many. I got a lot of these because it's really hard to keep these propellers on the motors. They don't fit all that well, and you know, the different methods of getting props that are a little bit too loose to then fit well are not like 100% useful. So I got a bunch of these. I'm probably gonna empty these bags out a little bit and put a bunch of these on at Etsy. I'm actually gonna throw these over towards where I take pictures of shit for the Etsy listings to remind myself of that. These 2015s seem to be better in that regard. They when I pushed them onto the motors, it took more force to push them on, not too much force. Also, the motor shafts on the Flywoo Robo motors are a little bit longer. The Happy Model 1103s, the motor shafts, they've shortened them just a little bit to save a little bit of weight, I guess, which is kind of cool. But then they don't come all the way through the they don't come all the way through. See that? Like, you can't even see the motor shaft. Like, it's down in there, but yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why these propellers kind of keep coming off. You can certainly do what I like to do in that situation is take sharp-tipped tweezers, and if this is the inner hole of the propeller, you take your sharp-tipped tweezers, you go in there, you scrape it around a little bit. What you're doing is you're scraping against the plastic, and what's going to happen is you're going to push this part of the plastic in, but then the other sides of the plastic are gonna like pop up, right? If the plastic is like this and you dig into the middle here, it's going to do that. And so these two parts where my knuckles are, they're going to dig into the prop more. That doesn't really work all that well with this propeller and motor combo. And so what I ended up doing was taking some super glue on the head of a pin, and if this is the hole, you just rub it around in there, and then you let it dry. And that super glue on the inside of the plastic, it gives it a little bit of texture and a little bit of grip. And that works. The problem with that is you pull that propeller off, and a lot of that super glue comes out. And so you like got to do it every time, and it's just kind of annoying to have to sit there and do that with super glue to your propellers. So I'm kind of loving having a motor and prop combo where I don't have to deal with that shit. I just mash the prop on, and it doesn't come off until I want to take it off. But these are the good. I have way more 2-inch propellers than this, but these are the really good ones. So here are the GemFan 2015s that I'm most excited about. I do have the HQ 2 by 1.5 by 1.5 millimeter inner diameter. So I am going to try these, but as with all of these HQ ultralight props, the hubs are a little bit fragile, and these propellers will eventually explode. And when that happens, you can't take back off. So I never recommend flying unrecoverable spots with HQ ultralight props. In some cases, there are no other prop options, like with 1.8-inch builds. So you're kind of stuck. One of the reasons I don't like 1.8-inch builds is because of that. You're stuck running a propeller that at some point is going to blow up at the hub, and you're not going to be able to fly the thing home. In 1.6-inch and 2-inch props, we've got good GemFan options that are really, really durable where you don't have to worry about that. The other 2-inch prop that's really fun is this HQ quad blade D2 by 1.9 by 4. If you just want all the grip in the world, or if you have a motor that's a little bit too low of a KV, you can use these to get a bunch of power out of it. I don't like them because they're too grippy. You know, with this 2-inch rig, I've been trying to go the other direction and get a little bit more slide from it. Also, when you get a little bit more slide from it, it performs better in the wind. The wind doesn't have as much blade material to catch on and try to move the thing. And one of the reasons that I moved this build up to 2-inch is that I wanted to be able to fly it like outside in big locations where there's going to be wind, downtown in cities and stuff like that. And so, yeah, the biblades help with that as well. They help with it in the wind. It was actually super windy today for this area. And I flew the 1.6-inch analog rig. which was getting hammered by the wind, I actually put a full battery through the 1.6-inch O4 light rig, and that was getting killed by the wind. Not as bad as the analog rig because it's a little bit heavier, but it was still getting moved around by the wind quite a bit. And then when I flew the 2-inch build, I was like, yeah, I remember this. It's like, it's absolutely noticeably better in the wind. If there's 30 miles an hour wind, you're screwed anyway. So, you know, it's still a tinywhoop. It still has big guards on the outside, so it's going to get affected by the wind, but as we go bigger and heavier, it definitely makes a difference. And yeah, if you want to do some really fun stuff with the O4 Lite, super safe, super low profile, like rip it right past the security guard's face, and they're probably not going to say anything because it obviously looks like a little toy, right? It's a tinywhoop. This is the way to do it. You know, even I would argue that like even something like this, which isn't any bigger really, this is gonna freak people out a little bit more, right? Like this whizzing past you, this seems much more dangerous than something like this, right? Like this is just obviously like a silly little toy. You know, it's all plastic. It's whatever. It's all rounded edges. This, you know, this has a little bit more like sketchiness to it. It's going to be super quiet, right? Toothpicks are infinitely quiet, but still, like if somebody sees you railing a toothpick around, I think they're going to be a lot more, there's going to be a much higher chance of them, you know, stop, or straight up calling the cops or a security guard or something like that. And so, yeah, tinywhoops are, the ultimate. It's called gorilla whooping for a reason. It's not called gorilla toothpicking, because you know you wouldn't get very far gorilla toothpicking. I don't think. I think you would get kicked out much quicker than whooping. Donnie, thank you again for the super generous super chat. You can FPV says, did you see the newly announced X14? I did not. I'm assuming that's by Happy Model. X14. Look at that. What'd you guys change? It still looks like it's oversized. That's admittedly kind of annoying, but we've already gotten used to that, and we know which frames the oversized setup will fit in. So ICM 42688 gyro. I think that's what's in the X12. It's got black box. That's pretty cool. I don't think the X12 has black box. Right? Here's one. Let's plug it in and see. Ooh! It's got black box. Yo, that's actually really nice. I'm not going to use the black box, but I'm certainly going to log with it and then send it to someone else and say, like, hey, how's this look? Yeah, no, the X12 does not have black box. This is how you can tell whether or not your flight controller has black box. If it says this, it doesn't have black box. So right there, just that one thing is amazing. Will it still take 2S? It's got a 2 amp 5 volt BEC on it. That's great. Will it still take 2S? 12 amp FETs. Kind of weird that they're calling it an X14. The whole point of calling it an X12 is because it had 12 amp FETs. A little bit weird calling it an X14 with 12 amp FETs, but whatever. 400 milliwatt VTX, that's the same. Different firmware target. My man, 1 or 2S compatible. That is fantastic. Cool. I don't care what else is different. It has black box, and that's amazing. And so, hell yeah. Thank you, Happy Model. That's awesome. X14. Very, very cool. Big improvement. Black box versus no black box really does matter. That is fan-fucking-tastic. Happy Model knows what we want, man. They listen. They really do. Brent Anderson says, ESC configurator settings might assist with the dynamic idle tweaks. I mentioned, you might have missed it, that in ESC configurator, I went to, maybe I didn't say this on the live stream, but I did say this in the recording that patrons are going to have access to. I changed that quad from my favorite version of Blue Jay, which is 0.16, to the brand new version 0.21, because 0.21, they say that they fixed a bug. I'm not buying it. I think they just made the sliders more aggressive, the startup power sliders more aggressive. And so I moved it to 0.21, and then I pushed those sliders up as high as they'll go, and it still didn't help it out. So yeah, sometimes that will help, but a lot of times when that problem is there, and it's being stubborn, that's actually not going to help. But that's always the first thing that you want to do. If you have a build where when you arm it, the motors just go like meh, 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 meh. They don't reliably sit there and spin, right? The first thing you want to do is go into ESC configurator or BLE32 or AM32 and start pushing the startup power up. What I'll usually do is push the startup power all the way up and then just test it, because if they do spin reliably, now I can back it off. If they don't spin reliably, then I can move on to something else, and it saves me a little bit of time. It's a little bit risky doing that. You could technically burn up an ESC. I've been doing that for the better part of 10 years, and I've never had that happen. So, yeah, I think you're pretty safe doing that. But yeah, that is always the very first thing that you want to do, and then you go down the rabbit hole. On this particular build, I'm like way, way, way down the rabbit hole with it to try to get it going, and unfortunately, in the end, I just couldn't use digital idle. I turned it off. I turned back on the regular idle in the motors tab, and everything was a lot better. So, and it's, is what it is. Goated04 says, hey, the other day I asked if there's a better frame or props for my 75 Pro with 1102 20,000s. You recommended a setup with the tree toppers, but I was hoping to keep stock electronics. I don't know what to say. That there is... Oh, well, wait, no, actually, there is a different frame option. For the longest time, the BetaFPV's Meteor75 Pro frame was the only one that would turn 1.8-inch props. But Happy Model, with the Mobula8 O4, introduced the M80 frame, which will take 1.8-inch props. I don't think you should do that because it forces you to run propellers that are very fragile. But if you're absolutely desperate to stick with the 1.8-inch prop setup, there you go. Happy Model M80 frame is a much better frame than the Meteor75 Pro. So yeah, but a much better idea is going to be to drop it down to a Mobula8 V4 frame and go to a 1002 motor that's a higher KV, or the tree toppers. Well, actually, the only 1002 motor that's going to be a high enough KV is the GEP-RC 25,000 that we tested on Wednesday's live stream, or the tree toppers. Both of those setups will fly so much better than 1102 20,000 kV motors that it's well worth the $50 realistically that it's going to cost you to do that. Your current setup with the 1.8-inch props and 1102 20,000 kV motors, it's going to be like an RC car. You're not going to have enough power to generate enough like upwards momentum to do like off throttle really fun stuff and power loops where you got to dig at the bottom of the dive. It's going to be a rig that you can like go charging up and down the street with, like old school tinywhoops, really, like old school brush tinywhoops. They didn't have enough power to do any of the three-dimensional stuff that we're used to doing in freestyle settings. And so what you did is you just kind of drove them around. You kept your elevation pretty static, and you just, drive it around like this, forward, back, left, and right. With the tree toppers, with the GEP-RC motors, you're going to have enough actual power, and you're going to bring the weight of that build down by going to smaller props and smaller motors, and a smaller frame, where you'll be able to do all the stuff that you see all the freestyle guys doing: power loops, matty flips, big dives, yeah, a more three-dimensional flight experience where you can go front, back, left, and right, but also up and down. And you can actually come off the throttle and let it float because it's got enough power to throw itself upwards, and then you jump off the throttle and you do all that fun shit. So yeah, there you go. Capital C says, just unboxed my new soldering rework station, posted on pics on the Discord. Very cool. You can FPV says, what frames for 2S 75mm? Meteor, it depends on your AIO, but the easy button is Mobula8 V3. And then if you're on a really short motor, you might need longer screws and motor spacers, which I have on my Etsy store. If you're on a little bit of a taller motor, you'll be okay. One of the 4 tabs on CiottiFPV tinywhoop data is motor heights and columns that specifically tell you on the Cockroach V3, on the Air 65 Meteor 65 Weebleed Crown, or on the Mobula8 V3 frame, yes or no, will those motors work? And so, yet another benefit of joining the old Patreon. There is a live stream where I did a lot of those measurements, so you could sit here for 2 hours and watch that live stream. Or you can give me $3 of your dollars, and that's well worth, you know, is 2 hours of your time worth $3? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And it'll allow me to do more testing like that so that you get a setup that flies really good. Cole Powers says, you got to have a daily flight regimen. Did someone say racing? Yeah, I mean, doesn't matter what it is. There's nothing wrong with racing. It's not my thing. But yeah, racing is arguably a better way of getting good. It has the potential to build some bad habits if you're looking to fly cinematic. But boy, is it a great way to get good fast. Brian Kirk broke a 2-position switch on his Boxer. Any way to fix it? I think I need to not use it. I was using it for angle, and I can switch out of angle mode. One of the things that I've done in the past is I'll take a switch from another location that I'm not using, and I'll just move it over. For now, you can just reassign it to that other location, but I like having a switch in this one spot. So I literally just stole a switch, and I just had an empty hole. It's still like that. My hole is still empty. See? This one broke, and so I took the switch out of this, and I put it over here. Why is this? These are short ones. Oh, no, you know what I actually did? So well, here. This is what a normal QX7S looks like. Short, long, long, short, right? So what I did is I took the long one from here and I put it into there, and then I took the short one. Initially what I did is I took the short one from here and I put it into there. And then I didn't like that this was a short switch. So I took the long one out of there, which I don't use, and I put it there. And I took the short one that was there, and it was there, and I put it over here. But I don't use this. I just use this one. This is normal, and then turtle mode, and then beeper. So yeah, there you go. I don't use this transmitter anymore, though, because it's 10 years old, and I'm afraid that it's going to die. I now have a fresh QX7S. Eventually, the PC, after you take these things around the world with you and put them in your bag and smack the shit out of them 10,000 times, the main motherboard can just, like, die at random. And transmitters are the one thing that I don't bring a backup of. I bring a second of everything when I'm working, but transmitters are so goddamn big that I've yet to find a way to bring a second transmitter and clothes. And I need clothes when I go work. Where are we at here? Islander FPV says, did you give away your last Weebleed 1S jousting pack with Etsy orders? I think so. I think someone asked for it, and I threw it in their package with the Etsy orders because I had put it like right here so that I would see it and mention it on the live stream, and I'm not seeing it anywhere. So I have Weebleed sent me 4. I have my 1 that I'm keeping. But yeah, the other 3 have gone out to their new homes. Jamie Flies FPV, I don't think she wants hers. So if she comes into the chat, bug her. She's also on my Discord, which is linked over at CiottiFPV.com. She's in the chat. There she is. She posted 2 below your comment. So yeah, she might be willing to send you hers for the price of shipping, because I know she used it and then she was like, here, take it back. And I'm like, no, you keep that. But yeah, I have a feeling she's never going to use it again. So she'll probably be willing to send it over to you. I'm going to fly some batteries, some 1S batteries on this live stream. So I need to put some on the goddamn charger. Let's put 2 NX69 batteries on the charger, because I fixed the Hummingbird V4 and I've been dying to fly it. And then we're going to put, first of all, I'm going to switch this thing out of storage mode and into regular charge mode. And then I'm going to take some BT 2.0 batteries and put those on here. That one is looking super beat up, so let's fly that one. This one's looking super beat up, so let's fly this one. These 2 are not super beat up, so let's let them chill. Speaking of, Jimmy Flies FPV says, oh, hi. You Can FPV says, do any 1S boards have black box other than the beta FPV ones? I don't think so. I think it's just the beta FPV boards, which is maddening. Because, I mean, if you have a build that you want to get black box tuned, you could like buy one of the beta FPV AIOs, put it in that build, tune it to the limit with black box, and then take that AIO out and put any other, basically put a happy model AIO in there so that you have a reliable setup. That tune that was 100% perfect with the beta FPV AIO is not going to be 100% perfect with any other AIO. The AIO on tinywhoops is a part of the structure. So the thicker the AIO, the stronger the frame is actually going to be. Also, it's going to change the weight. And so, yeah, that would be like the best way to get like a Happy Model 2G4 or a Super X from the Mobula8 2024 tuned as closely as possible, because you're tuning it with the same frame, the same motors, the same propellers, the same canopy, and a very similar all-up weight, right? And so that's kind of the best. I think that's a better way than running an open logger, because an open logger introduces a set of wires, and then you've got a VHB double-sided tape the logger to the top of the AIO, and it might move a little bit on there. Either method is going to get you damn close. All that being said, just grabbing the filter sliders and moving the D-gain slider up to 1.2 or 1.4, and then pushing the PIDs the PID sliders like I've shown you guys a million times. You take the D-gain slider, you move it 1.0 to 1.3, you fly it, you make sure it's not acting weird, and then you take that same ratio and you just keep moving both the D-gain slider and the P&I sliders up in that ratio. Or you just grab the master multiplier and move it from 1.0 to 1.2 to 1.4 to 1.6 to 1.8. And when you go too far, the quad tells you and you back it off a little bit. That method gets you like 85% of the way to a perfect tune. And honestly, that's all you need. Like, they're tiny whoops. It doesn't matter. I guess maybe you could argue that if you're a really competitive racer, that it might be worth it to go farther than that. But I don't know about that, to be honest. Because, like, if you have the tune backed off a little bit, it lets you beat it up a little bit more. Like, there's advantages to not having a tune that's absolutely, like, perfect. I actually don't consider a tune that's all the way as aggressive as it can possibly be to be perfect, because it's fucking annoying. Because when you start bashing into shit and bending the props or the motors up, or the frame or screws start to vibrate out, you got to go back in and pull the tune down, and that's just like super annoying. So to me, the perfect tune is one that's somewhat is more aggressive than stock, but is backed off a bunch from that bitter limit so that you can actually fly the damn thing, rather than having, like, you know, fly it rather than PID tuning it all the time. You know what I mean? But that's just me. Also, as you change the PID tune, the thing flies different. So why would you want something that every time you beat it up a little bit, it starts to, you have to change the tune and now it flies different, right? Run a tune that's backed off a little bit, which is easy to get to without black box, and then it's always going to fly the same. To me, that's a better idea, but that's just me. You're allowed to have, you know, it's just my opinion. And as we all know, opinions are just like assholes. Everybody has one. Brent Anderson says, I was thinking you might need to back them down, startup power, now that your dynamic idle and you're dynamic idling and running a bit high. So I had to move the startup power percentage in the CLI up, and so I got it to a point, and I dove into this in the flight footage that you guys will get to see, patrons will get to see. There was a point where moving that startup power percentage higher didn't actually accomplish anything. It didn't help the problem. And so I wouldn't necessarily think that moving the sliders around in Blue Jay, pulling the sliders down in Blue Jay would help anything, but you never know, because those sliders are called startup power, and then in the CLI it's called startup power. So I would think that they're doing the same thing, but maybe not. I don't know if I'm gonna. I defaulted everything back when I gave up, and yeah, I don't know if I'll go back into it to test that, if I'm totally honest. Because the issue is not startup power related. It's motor idle related. It happens when you're flying it, not when it's sitting on the ground. So I doubt that would help. I'm really tempted to test it. I might go back and test it, but I'm not making any promises. Brian Anderson says use CiottiFPV. He did. We're good. Professor Biohazard says, do you think a 2.5-inch Cinewhoop could carry an OSMO Nano 52 grams? 52 grams. Yeah, boy, is that pushing it though. There are plenty of 2.5-inch rigs that carry naked GoPros. Sometimes naked GoPros will be 30, 40 grams. And so, yeah, could carry it. Absolutely could carry it. Whether it's going to fly worth a shit, that's a whole different story. Well, although, I mean, all my 3-inch Cinewhoops carry 120 something gram cameras. So yeah, you could absolutely do it. It's going to be awful noisy because 2.5-inch setups have to carry mega RPM to make any actual thrust, and so they're just the most shrill sounding things ever. So like if you're doing a scratch build, I would not go with a 2.5. I would go with a 3-inch setup. Also, you've got much better propeller and motor selections on 3-inch Cinewhoop. So yeah, if it's a scratch build, I would not go 2.5-inch. But if you've got a 2.5-inch Cinewhoop that you're thinking about buying that camera for, yeah, it'll absolutely pick up 52 extra grams. No, unquestionably. You're gonna need some you're going to need motors that are probably bigger than 1404, though. 1404s will... I mean, it depends on the rest of the build, but, like, if the all-up weight... 1404 is the smallest motor that I would suggest. How about that? I would opt for like a 1604 or maybe even an 1804. But the problem's going to be you're not going to find those motors with a high enough KV. So you're going to have to probably end up running the damn thing on 5S. So welcome to the world of cascading problems in FPV that is caused by these goddamn motor manufacturers not making the motors a high enough KV, which is maddening because motor limiting is built into Betaflight, and you can do it from the goddamn OSD. So, yeah. Very annoying. But I digress. Phil Bradley says, my Beta FPV HX115 toothpick keeps trying to fly away. Ever had a quad slowly increase throttle in Acro no matter what input? It's okay in angle, but once to fly away in Acro, gyro seems fine. When did this behavior start is always the first step of any troubleshoot. More than likely, this behavior started when you railed it into something. And what's happening is, all of a sudden, you've bent a motor shaft, or you've banged up propellers, or you've delaminated an arm. You've physically damaged it. And now more of the vibrations are getting from the motor and prop into the gyro. And that's what's making it fly away. When these things fly away, what's happening is, typically what's happening is, there's a physical vibration, and the PID loop is an error correction loop. And it doesn't understand what the hell's going on when there's a vibration. And so it runs at 4,000 times a second. So in 1/4000th of a second, the gyro is detecting that vibration, and it's trying to push back against it. Well, then so like, let's say it's this prop. Let's say this prop is out of balance. So it's going to vibrate, 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 vibrate. One direction, the other direction. So when it vibrates one direction, the PID loop is going to push back in the other direction. Well, then when the prop swings around to the other side, it's going to vibrate to the other direction, and the PID loop is going to try to correct in that direction. And guess what happens? It just starts wobbling on its own. You can usually get around this by pulling the PIDs down. When you make the PIDs less aggressive, you're telling it, hey, don't push against the vibration as early. And so when you allow it to not push against the vibration as early, it vibrates one way, and then it vibrates the other way before the PID loop even pushes against it. The problem with pulling the PIDs down, it'd be this way, pulling the PIDs down, is that it flies like shit. And so, in my opinion, you should always try to fix the mechanical before anything else. And that means taking all your propellers off and putting a fresh set on. If that doesn't help it, you take those props off and you get a different propeller that's as new as possible. The newer the propeller, the better the balanced it is. The prop manufacturers are getting better and better and better at making these props. And so like every single time we get a new prop, it's a little bit better balanced than the one that came right before it. And so always blame the propellers first. If that doesn't help, try a third set of propellers. You'll probably not get 3 sets of different propellers that are all out of balance out of the box. If that still doesn't fix the problem, take a look at your motors. While you have the propellers off, you might as well fire the motors up in the motors tab of Betaflight, spin them up as slowly as they'll go, and put your fingernail against the motor shaft. Do that on all 4 motors, and if you've got one motor that the motor shaft is doing this on, replace that motor. You'll feel it with your fingernail because your fingernail's hard. And so you got the motor shaft. If it's wobbling, when you put your fingernail next to it, it'll hit your fingernail. It should be nice and smooth. You've got 4 motors to compare it to. You won't. All 4 motors will not be banged up. You will have one motor that's clean. And so if you've got one motor that's cleaner than the rest, pick the worst one and replace that one first. See if it's any better. Then replace the next worst one, then replace the next worst, you know what I'm saying? Take the thing like this, put your middle fingers on top of the motors, put your thumbs in the middle, and bend the frame a little bit, and then bend the frame a little bit on the other two arms. They should all be the same. If you've got one arm that's starting to delaminate, like one of the front arms, because you crash in the front a lot more than the back, replace the frame. Check all your motor screws, make sure they're all tight. Check the frame screws, make sure they're tight. Make sure that your AIO is soft mounted. You need to have a little bit of give in the AIO. You don't want a lot. You want just a little bit of movement on the AIO so that the AIO is kind of floating and everything else is vibrating underneath of it. If the AIO is too loose, it'll generate its own vibration, and that's bad as well. So you just want the AIO to move just a little bit. If you take it and you just kind of like push on the AIO, you should see just the tiniest little bit of movement, left, right, front, back. You can also test up and down. You want a little tiny bit, not a lot. The screws that the AIO is mounted to, those screws cannot move like this. Typically what you want is the screw to come up through the carbon fiber base plate, and then you want a locking nut on the top so that that screw is solid. If you don't have a locking nut on top of that screw, it can do this. And now the flight controller can make its own vibration, and when it makes that vibration, the PID loop is going to fight against that vibration. It's going to fly away. That's about 4 hours of work for you. Get to it. Fix that quad. Those are most of the things. Those are the most common things that go wrong to cause that behavior. It could also be that the AIO sucks and it has too much electrical noise. You can put a Band-Aid on that with a capacitor, but realistically, you got to get rid of that AIO. An electrically noisy AIO is pretty much always going to be a nightmare. If you do all of those things and it still hasn't fixed it, blame the AIO. Try a different AIO. Matthew W. says, X14 is 0.27 grams lighter than the X12 too. That's pretty cool. That's not nothing. I use the X12s on rigs that are like unbelievably powerful, so I'll never notice that. But for a 1S, that'll matter. I don't know if that oversized X12 X14 AIO will fit in the M80 frame. It might. But I don't recommend you do that anyway, because then there's no durable prop option for the 1.8-inch setups. Jamie Flies FPV says, I've got a jousting pack I'm happy to return to you. Sounds good. If whoever was asking for it is willing to pay you for the shipping, feel free to ship it directly to them. If you don't want to go through that, just get it back to me at some point, and I'll charge them $5 and ship it to them. Sporty FPV says, CiottiFPV and everyone, just got my first printer running. What are some FPV must-haves out of TPU? The canopies are the biggest thing. That's about it. I use my 3D printer to print stuff for bigger quads much more than tinywhoops. Tinywhoops, it's really just the canopies. TPU is kind of heavy. Calvin says, thanks for the 2S content. Love building 2S rigs. You and me both, brother. You're certainly welcome. Phil Bradley says, when do you think we'll get a 30mm or smaller whoop? Never. If they could do it, would smaller always be better for indoors? Love the show. No. 1.2 is it. We are pushing the 1S batteries to their limits, and that's exactly what we want. To go any smaller, we can't go below 1S, right? We're not going to have a 0.5S battery. That's not how lithium polymer works, right? So to go any smaller than 1.2-inch props, we're not going to be driving the battery to its limit, and we're going to be leaving performance on the table. And so 1.2 inches is it. Also, 1.2-inch propellers show significantly worse performance than even 1.4, certainly 1.6. As a propeller gets smaller, the tips of the blades get closer together. You've got a high and a low pressure zone on the top and the bottom of the propeller. You've got a piece of plastic that's separating those two zones, and that's efficient. you lose all that efficiency where you no longer have that plastic. And so at the tip of the propeller, the high and the low pressure zones mix, and it makes the biggest area of turbulence. And so as a propeller spins, you've got it's called a tip vortex. The tip vortices come here, and on a big propeller like this, it's going to spin and then it's going to disperse. And it disperses by the time the next propeller blade comes across. When you shrink the propeller down and you've only got a gap like this big between the tips of each propeller, that tip vortex doesn't have enough time to disperse. So it's still a bunch of turbulent air, and then the next propeller comes through. And when you've got turbulent air hitting the front of a propeller blade, that is where you get a lot of inefficiency. And we can really see this with the 1.2 inch props. And so to go to a 1 inch prop or a 0.8 inch prop, it's exponential. It gets exponentially worse with the size of the propeller shrinking. So a 1 inch prop, a 0.8 inch prop is going to be significantly worse in terms of efficiency. These 1.2s already blow goats in terms of efficiency. So it just doesn't make much sense. Also, you know, I guess you could shrink the AIOs up a little bit more, but then you're going to have it's just not realistic. You know, we've done years and years and years of R&D on 1.2 inch propeller frames. You're not going to be able to just you're not just going to be able to put this into a photocopy machine at 80% and have it be a 1 inch setup that works. You're going to have to start that R&D cycle all over again. We can see this with 65 millimeter motor to motor frames compared to 75 millimeter motor to motor frames. It's you can't just scale it up and it works. It's a different frame design. You have to design it totally different. So yeah, these are going to be as small as we have if you want any kind of flight performance. If there already are smaller, like there's been a bunch of videos bouncing around Instagram and YouTube of a guy that designed a little, I think it's 3D printed frame that puts 2 of these motors on top and 2 on the bottom as a pusher. And yeah, for sure, it's smaller than this. It's a ever so slightly smaller than this, but it flies horrendous. And you know, there's massive sacrifices to doing that. And so, you know, for me, flight performance is super important. And like, you know, to make something smaller that flies like ass, like why are we doing this, right? Like, this is what flies good, and so let's stick with this. You know, FPV has been around for long enough where, like, you know, the stuff that we've got is pretty close to being optimized, and lots of people have thought about, you know, making things smaller, making things bigger. And so, yeah, we're probably not going to see anything that flies half decent, but there will always be people that want to do stuff just to be different for the sake of being different without, you know, caring much about how it actually performs, and they'll continue to make weird stuff. But, yeah, it certainly won't. You said be better for indoors. This is it. This is as good as it's going to get for indoors. This will get better as the weight continues to come down. Jesus Christ. Teddy! Hey! Hold on. All right. Good question, though, brother. Good question. UCanFPV says there's a micro 2 motors. That's UCanFPV is talking about. Same thing I'm talking about. All right, I'm caught up. Let's dive into some flight footage here. I've got the files pulled up. Let's just get these ripping and running. Okay. So here we go. 1103. So this is basically a Mobula8 O4. Mobula8 frame. Mobula7 O4 AIO. I'm not sure which AIO that is, but just look up the Mobula7 O4. It's whatever that AIO is. I think it's a Crazy X. 1103 happy model motors that are 11,000 kV. Gemfan 2023 S Yeah, sorry for screaming while the mic was not muted, guys. That's totally my bad. Yeah, GemFan 2023S propellers. And the first thing that I want to look at is the RPM. So, well, here, hold on. So, fully charged battery. Full throttle. Throttle is over here. Full throttle there, just a little blip. But there it is. I laid into the throttle good and hard there. I think that was the biggest full... Yeah, so that was the biggest throttle burst I did. But that was a good one. That should have given these motors enough time to spin all the way up. And so I brought it back in. As you can see, it flies awesome. This flies great. Nothing wrong with this. Bring it in. Skinny legs. 40,767 RPM. 40,767 is in the chat now. I'm just going to go directly to one of the other files here real quick with the 1003s to compare. And I believe that is this one. Let's see. I'll be able to tell because I'll go full throttle at some point here. Maybe not. This looks a little slow. This might still be on the triblades. And there's not much throw. Yeah, this is still on the triblades. Look at the battery voltage. So this is the end of the triblade battery, I'm going to guess. Wait, no, maybe not. Hold on. Okay. Why did it... This is weird. Why did it record that twice? What the hell? Hold on. What the hell? Oh, it automatically went from one file. I'm stupid. It automatically went from one file to the next. Okay, so yeah, those were all the 1103 triblades. Here we go. Here we go. Now I'm going to say 1003. There we go. Okay, so 1003. Here we go. I want to see how big the full throttle burst is. Just as a comparison point. I always do it going this way. Yep, about the same amount of time. Did you see it? I left it full throttle at pretty much the same amount of time. Let me... Can I count frames? Is there a way to do frame forward? That would be the best possible way of doing it. Hold on. Let's come in here. Wait, we're not at full throttle yet. Video. Well, let's just hit the right arrow. Nope. I had a feeling that wouldn't work. How can I go one frame forward? All right, that's where I need to be. Playback. Come on now. You have to have a way of doing this. Oh, for Christ's sakes. Why do I ever try to figure anything out? Just type it into effing Google. Can I go one frame forward with Inna? Step through frames, issue. This option, right arrow. Option, right arrow. Hey! All right, so here we go. So we're looking down here. There's 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 26. Balls. 26 frames. Oh, and we can look at the... What the hell just happened? We can look at the amp readout. See how many amps it's pulling. Even better. 21.29. Shit, what did I say? 26 frames? Somebody type in the chat what I just said. How many frames it was. I think it was 26. 21.29 amps. These are on the Flywoo 1003 high KV motors with the 2015 props. 23.87. 26. 26.8. And then I'm off of full throttle. And it was still going up. Look at the... That's funny. Look at the amps. How long will the amps continue to go up? Just those. So 27.21 amps. And so now, is this the other flight file? This is. 26 frames, 27 point whatever amps. almost. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. 99. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay. 25 frames. Good enough. Look at the amp numbers, though. The amps are all the way down at 19.6. Interesting. That's a difference in kV. That's a difference the kV will make. And look, like the amp numbers are slowly rising, right? 19, 20, 21. So they probably wouldn't have gone much higher than 21. Where's that other file real quick? Whereas when I did it here on the higher kV 1003s, the amp numbers were making much bigger changes, right? So 21, 23, 26. Oh, but look at that. It goes from 26.06 to 26.8 and then 27.2. Okay, so it was slowing down. It wasn't but that's a big difference in amps. That's kind of to be expected. Higher kV is going to do that. Even though it's a smaller motor, right? 1003 versus 1103. Not much of a difference there, right? From, well, that actually is a pretty big difference. From 10 to 11 is a 10%, like 9% change. So, yeah, that is a pretty big difference. I didn't necessarily notice it having much more power with the higher kV setup on the biblades. It felt perfect. It feels perfect with the 1103s on the triblades. It felt perfect with the 1003s on the biblades. I'm super happy with it. Let's just let me let this footage play while I talk about it. Let me take a look at this, make sure not too much is being covered up. I'm gonna shut this off so that you guys can see all the OSD. The hell just happened? Oh, it switched to the second file. So here you go. Here is Happy Model 1103, 11,000 kV with GemFan 2023S tri-blade propellers. I love this. This is so much fun to fly. It's a little bit heavier because the motors are bigger and the propellers have an extra blade. I didn't necessarily notice the extra weight. I think because it's on a tri-blade propeller. The prop is more grippy, and so that's going to hide the extra weight. It's also probably only like a gram or two different between this 1103 setup and the next setup, which is a 1003 with biblades. And so this is great, man. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. Those Happy Model 1103 motors are everywhere. They're easy to get. There is a little bit of sliding that this thing does, but you can see there it is grippy, right? I do a whole bunch of these yaw turns with both of these propellers, and that's where you can really feel it when you're on the sticks. I'm doing my best to show it to you guys, but it's really a feel thing. It's hard to kind of to show it because it depends on how hard you throw it. It depends on how much you coordinate your sticks for it to rotate around flat. A couple of those, I did them just yaw. I just did a yaw 180 and then I pitched forward, and that's going to slide a lot more than when you coordinate your sticks and you push left roll and left yaw at the same time, which keeps the horizon flat, but it really like digs in, and when it turns 180 degrees, it's got a bunch of it's got a bunch of nose down, and that just eats up any of that momentum. In close, tight spaces in here, this thing is awesome. It really controls its weight well. The tri-blades are great. You can argue that the tri-blades... No, you don't have to argue this. The tri-blades are going to help this frame be more durable because there's an extra blade. When you hit something, the frame is going to push into a blade more often. There you can see the wind. Look how windy it is today. Look at the top of this tree getting mangled. And yet a 2-inch tinywhoop is not jumping all around, right? This is not stabilized. Nothing. I need to get this thing off of... I have the exposure locked because I was flying this with the ND filters. I got to put it to auto exposure so it'll brighten the sky up a little bit. All right, cook the sky down a little bit. The sky's a little blown out. So it did get hung up here. And this is the end of the battery, 53 more seconds here. So runtime in the bottom right corner, we're already at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Great runtime. This is on one of these in air quotes that you can't see because I turned the camera off. 420 mAh Flywoo batteries, which I now think are just a mislabeled GNB 2S 380 mAh battery. So yeah. That's really all you need. You don't need a 450 mAh battery for this setup unless you want like 4 or 5 minutes of runtime. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this setup. This is a phenomenal motor and propeller setup here, especially if you want something that's a little bit more grippy. Next up is Flywoo 1003 14,800 kV motor with Gemfan 2015 biblades. 1003. Boy, do I wish that DJI would put audio in their shit. Just put a little microphone in the goddamn goggles and then just, like, come on now. So now, immediately, it feels more slippery. Just when you're off the throttle, it just carries a little bit better. This is the same PID tune. So we know that these motors are well balanced and these propellers are well balanced. I might be able to turn this tune up a little bit. It's certainly not over-tuned. As you can see, the response time is quick. This is one of the things that you're going to get from a biblade. It's a lot lighter weight of a propeller. So if you can find a motor that's roughly the same stator size, but it has a higher KV, to make up for the fact that the biblade has one less propeller, you can get a significant improvement in response time. The response time on the 1103s with the triblades is totally fine, but I did notice that I always notice it when I go to biblades that I get better response time as long as I've found a motor that's higher KV, right? If you run a motor if you run biblades versus triblades on the same exact motor, sometimes the triblades will make so much more thrust that it'll actually like mask the fact that the response time is better on the biblades. But if you can find a motor that has a higher KV, biblades will almost always give you a better response time because they're a lot less heavy, right? 50% less weight a lot of times from one less blade. So I immediately wanted to know what this thing felt like in really tight quarters to make sure that the biblades aren't too slippery to duck in and out of the bushes. And it felt totally fine. It didn't feel quite as good to be expected, but it was completely fine in there in the bushes. Out here, whopping it around, it feels like biblades versus triblades. It just felt really, really good. I think this is going to be the setup that I stay with. Still a good amount of power. Like, look at how. Oh boy, I went way too far back. Here we go. Look at how early. So it was an option, right arrow. So bottom right corner, you're going to look at the throttle value, right? 29, 32, 37. Here we go. 43, 48, 55, 66, 75, 100%, right? And now off the throttle, zero throttle. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 30, 31, 32, still traveling upwards. 33, 34, 35, 36, 38, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. 50 or so frames of upwards momentum at zero throttle. And now it finally starts to come down. That's a lot. That is plenty of power to produce that amount of upwards momentum. And it was also, I didn't invert it. It was... well, actually, inverting it would have hurt it a little bit. But I run the idles low enough where it doesn't really make much of a difference. Although, that's actually something that I should test. I should do a bunch of those and take a look at how many frames inverted versus not inverted. Maybe I'll remember to do that someday. I really like it. I really like it with the higher KV on the biblades. It does not lack power. It does not lack runtime. There's nothing weird happening. The props are not out of balance. This is me checking what the throttle is at hover. And yeah, there you go. 3 minutes and 8. That was the Flywoo battery. This is now the GNB 380 battery. It felt exactly the same. I was expecting a little bit less runtime, but I didn't get. I still got like 3 minutes and change. And so yeah, this is just a little bit more flying of this 2-inch rig that you've seen me whop around a bunch with 1103s on triblades, but now with 1003s on biblades. Yeah, like I said, it's going to stay like this for a while. I'm going to get used to it on this setup, and then when I have one extra Mobula8 frame next order that I do. Hopefully it's from a website that has the Mobula8 frames. I'll get 2 extras. And I will just put the 1103s with the tri-blades into one of my backup frames. And then at some point I'll do the reverse of this test. And I will... Ooh, I can pick my nose without you guys seeing me right now. I'll do the reverse of this test, and I'll go from the 1003s on the biblades to the 1103s on the tri-blades. And we'll have one more conversation about it. And then maybe I'll sell the 1103s. I don't know. We'll see. I always like to redo the tests in the other direction so that I can just kind of like check myself. If twice in a row I notice that I like it one way better than the other, then I feel a lot better. I feel like, you know, it's not just placebo. It's not just, you know, the shiny fancy new thing is better, because boy, is there... It is subtle, man. A lot of these changes are very subtle, and it's important to retest to make sure that it wasn't just placebo the first time, especially when you're testing something that you just paid a bunch of money for. You know what I mean? Your brain will absolutely make you think that the thing that you just spent a bunch of money and time on is better. That is a super common occurrence. So yeah, man. Great success. So that right there, this is possibly an example of the biblades being a little bit more slidey. I thought that I had... nope, I didn't fly this well. Well, if you look at where the center line is, if you look at where the center line of the screen is, which is basically right here, I'm not flying this properly. I'm the one crashing into this. Technically, the center point is right here, and so if given enough time, it might have whizzed right by. Let me go a couple frames forward. Yeah, see, I realized my... Okay, so I did realize that I was flying straight at the damn thing, and I started to fix it, and so maybe with the tri-blades, they would have had enough grip to have me not hit this thing. But with the biblades, I did hit it. Boy, I hit it. Look how... Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Oh well. But yeah, that was potentially a situation where the tri-blades may have saved me. I bet you they wouldn't. I figured I was correcting that fractions of a second before it actually hit. So that was a pilot error, almost certainly. But again, that kind of a situation right there is where the tri-blades might be a little bit better. Tiny little gaps. Is where an extra blade or two on a propeller is going to make it just shoot a straighter line and not drift as much. But the rest of this battery with the biblades, it felt better. And it felt good enough in there, like I felt totally confident in here. If I went to like a single blade or a non-prop guarded rig, it would be unflyable in here because it's too slidey. But this setup is absolutely fine in here. I felt totally comfortable carving around in these infinitely small little spots with a big heavy 2-inch setup, right? Like this thing is set up to carry these ND filters. I can shave like 5 to 10 grams off this build and make it even better in there, but that's not what it's for. This build is not for that. There you go, 3 minutes and 5 seconds of runtime. So, still plenty of runtime. I think between, oh yeah, the throttle limit's still at, oh yeah, that's right. No, I didn't change the throttle limit. I fixed the throttle midpoint. If you notice, my elevation was bouncing around a bunch. The throttle midpoint was set a little bit too high. And so I noticed that and then fixed it at the end there. So yeah, there you go, yo. That's what I did today. What'd you do? Do I want those files? Do I need those files? No, I don't need those files. I wasn't flying all that well. Oh my God, Microsoft's auto update. Really? Boy, I have spent about an hour and a half trying to figure out how to uninstall Microsoft's auto update. And I've found a whole bunch of methods on the internet, and none of them are working. It is very stubborn. Microsoft, go to hell. YuCanFPV says there's a micro 2 motors up to. Oh, right. We talked about that. YuCanFPV says 50 frames. That's almost 1 second of upward movement off throttle. It is indeed. This camera is 60 frames a second. I could have shown you that by playing the file and then going to 50% speed, but I just deleted the file, so it's gone forever. But yeah, I do have it in 4K 60. Eject. Yeah, don't erase. So there you go. Flywoo 1003 14,800 kV motors are awesome. And I am pretty sure this is kind of the way to go for like the best O4 light 2-inch tinywhoop. Mainly because, where'd the goggles go? Oh, I put them away. Mainly because if you're building a 2-inch tinywhoop, you're building it to fly it outside where there's wind. And the biblades are going to do a better job not catching that wind. Also, the biblades are going to give you better response time, which will help the PID loop work better. They have the potential to give you a little bit more runtime if you're not going full throttle when compared to the lower kV motors, right? We saw that with the amp numbers. We still got I forgot to mention that. We still got the same runtime, even though we're pulling a bunch more amps at full throttle. That's a perfect example of why, of how we spend practically no time at full throttle. Like over the course of a 3-minute battery, we've spent a sum total of like 3 seconds at full throttle. So having a smaller motor that's a higher kV, the motor is lighter, and so for 2 minutes and 55 seconds of the battery, you're carrying around less weight, right? And so, yeah, you can typically go to a higher in a lot of cases, you can go to a smaller motor that's a higher kV if you go to biblades and have no impact, or sometimes even better runtime. Because again, for the majority of the battery, the massive majority of the battery, you're not at full throttle. Also, these 1003s, you can probably find another 11,000-ish kV motor that has a longer motor shaft so that these propellers don't pop off. But when comparing the Happy Model 1103s to the Flywoo 1003s, yeah, the props aren't going to fall off as often or ever when you don't want them to. Yeah. Both setups are awesome. A potential benefit of the 1103 lower kV triblade setup is durability. I don't plan on crashing this rig, though. This is a rig with a TPU canopy and an expensive camera platform in the Flywoo mount, which is typically going to have an ND filter on the front. This is not a basher setup at all. So I don't necessarily care that I'm going to probably get better durability with a tri-blade setup. If you're going to build a 2-inch basher, maybe, because these Mobula8 frames are not very durable. And so that's a real thing. But that, just ask yourself, what are you going to do? Beat the hell out of it or fly it like a sane human being? If you're going to beat the hell out of it, maybe do a 1.6-inch build. It's going to be a lot lighter. We know that the O4 light system is not super durable, right? And so a lighter build is going to hit not as hard. It's also not going to be as fast because it's smaller and it's lighter and it's got smaller motors, right? And so, yeah, that's going to be a balance. If you live somewhere windy, maybe don't do the 1.6-inch setup, right? If you live somewhere without wind, though, and you want a basher, I think this is going to be the way to go. The Mobula7 V3 frame is hysterically durable. And so as a basher, yeah, having a durable frame is going to be mega for you. The Mobula8 frame with tri-blades, I don't think that's going to be anywhere near as durable as a setup like this. So, like, if you live somewhere super windy and you absolutely have to do the 2-inch setup, the Mobula8 frame with the tri-blades is maybe a better bet for you, to try to keep a little bit more durability into that frame. But yeah, I don't know. This thing does okay in the wind. It's not bad. So there you go. These are the ways that you decide what is the best build for you. I just had a really time-consuming back and forth with somebody in the comments of one of the live streams, and they just kind of, this happens like once a month or so. Someone will ask me what the best is, and then I'll explain, like, there is no best, there's just different. I help you through that on the live streams. And then they replied and said, what is the best? And I said, again, there is no best, there's just different. And then they replied again and basically said, well, what's the best? And so, yeah, it's like fresh on my mind. Like, I've literally, and the sixth comment in that exchange, I spent a bunch of time and went and basically said, I've chosen live streams, I've chosen long form content, because this is what I want to do. I want to help you guys find the best. There is no best for everyone. I can't tell you, any one of you, what the best is for you in this format. What I can do is educate you on what 3-blades versus the pluses and minuses of 3-blade versus 2-blade. The pluses and minuses of more all-up weight, less all-up weight. The pluses and minuses of a frame with ducts that are this tall versus this tall, right? Educate you on how you can take a look at the different available parts and pieces and choose the correct ones to build something that flies exactly right for you. I do that by just kind of exploring these different things and talking about it, but I also do it by building a ton of different rigs, flying them, and I have to learn it myself too, right? And so that's one of the big reasons that I've chosen this platform. I also, explain that, like, if you don't have and so if you want to learn and figure this stuff out for yourself, I've got literally thousands of live streams diving into this stuff for you to learn. If you don't have the time to do that, because long form content takes time, on CiottiFPV.com, there's a link to my Fiverr channel, or you can just message me and we'll set it up. I offer 30 or 60-minute sessions where I ask you 20-plus questions. The answers to those questions get me pretty goddamn dialed in, and then I can recommend the right propeller, the right frame, the right AIO, the right camera, the right blah 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 blah, all the way down the line, to try and help you build the perfect rig for yourself. But I, on a I can't ask 1,000 people that question here on this live stream that's going to go up, and answer it for everybody, right? That would take the rest of my life. So there you go. Drone Camps is in the chat. $4.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, for the O4 Pro Fund. Very cool, man. Where's that at? Gear Fund 104 goes to 109. Look how gross this is. Oh, I can't zoom on that. Wait, I can do this. Look how disgusting this number is. Who's gonna either make this 110 or maybe 115? I'm gonna leave it like that. This is, the live streams are gonna be like this until this disgusting odd number changes. Thank you for the reminder that this number is odd, Drone Camps, because this gives me the chance to now browbeat someone else into sending me more money that I can then spend on things to test and help you guys build better shit. What else I got? Hey, look at that. It's 8:59. Perfect. Oh, shit. Drone Camps took care of it his damn self. Yes! Somebody else did, too. My plan worked. Terry Burnett with a $5 super chat. Oh, Terry, you son of a bitch. Terry was gonna take it from 109 to 116. Respect, brother. Respect. But my plan did work. I got $6 more out of you people. Wow, I made that really big. Jesus Christ. All right, let's fix this real quick here. Thank you, guys. There we go. And let's scooch it downwards a little bit. That looks pretty good. Close enough. All right, 109 goes to 110 and then to 115. Thank you, fellas. Drone Camp says, we'll help when China tariffs double. Yeah, I actually just recently got nailed on a tariff on these ORT micro V antennas that come from overseas. I had to pay an additional $38. And so on that live stream, I said, hey guys, for anyone that somehow still doesn't understand how tariffs work, let me tell you a story. And I basically said, you know, I had to pay that fucking tariff, and guess what? Now you have to pay that tariff. And then I went to my Etsy store and I made the antennas more expensive. He tricked you. Look, he tricked a lot of people. He did it. Unfortunately, he tricked you 5 years ago, and somehow you didn't learn, and now he tricked you again. And so I have a real hard time with the people that doubled, but you know, because what that basically means is that those people are never going to learn, and that's really sad. Like, that's super, super, super sad and really scary as well. But you know, we have to live with these people, and so we've got to figure something out here, because man, it is just making everything so much worse for everyone. And it would obviously what most of us know is that what's really insane is that they're making it worse for themselves. You know, that's the most insane part of all of this, right? Is that the people, the vast majority of the people that voted for the lunatic, have just turned that shotgun right around, looked right down that fucking barrel, and just put an entire shell of buckshot directly into their faces, and they're gonna suffer the worst. But you know, we tried telling them, we were fucking screamed it from the rooftops, and they didn't listen again. So you know, and it's just because we didn't want to say we told you so. It doesn't help. It doesn't help anyone for us to scream, I told you so. Like, oh my God. And we didn't want that. Even though they say that we wanted that. We didn't. We wanted things to not get drastically worse for everyone. It's all we ever want. There you go. Haven't had a good solid rant in a while. So let's fly a couple of batteries, and we will enjoy the rest of our Friday nights. Let's fly this Hummingbird first, because I've got a 15-degree... Wayne Hunter with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. No comment. He just wants to support the insanity. I appreciate it, dude. the Hummingbird has a 15-degree mount on it, and it's got a mount that BeeBird. So this is a briBrain 15-degree that BeeBird has. Between the two of us, we've been trying to figure out how the hell to get a briBrain mount that doesn't hit the front camera plug on Newbie Drone Hummingbird and Beta FPV AIOs. And initially, BeeBird designed a whole different front leg, and a bunch of back and forth, and it wasn't durable. The other day, a lightning bolt hit my brain, and I messaged him. I said, dude, all we need to do is make the front foot taller, and then the leg will avoid. And so BeeBrain did a super quick one and made the front leg a little bit thicker. And now, as you can see, it no longer hits the goddamn camera plug, which was such a great example of, like, keep it simple, stupid, you know, like. And we both, you know, we're both just as guilty as one another. Because, like, you know, my ideas were just as infinitely complex as his. And so, yeah, 15 degrees up tilt. I have not flown this yet. I'm super curious to see how much duct is in view. I'm also curious to see how this holds up. The briBrain canopies have really been the best in terms of lightweight, the camera not smashing into the AIO and breaking the AIO, holding the camera firmly so it doesn't come out, holding the camera level so that it's not doing this nonsense, and being durable. We don't have, previously we didn't have any briBrain mounts that were less than 20 degrees, and they all hit that front plug. And so this is potentially the best Newbie Drone BI version 1 canopy available. This is not downloadable anywhere because we want to see how durable it is. And so let's do that. I'll fly really hard, crash the shit out of this, and we'll see if it survives 2 batteries. And then maybe BeeBird will put it up on, I think he puts all of his stuff on Makerspace. And then you guys can, oh no, wait, didn't I put one of his designs in my Discord. A can of air out in the garage. Here's some open prop 3-inching from Castle Crash real quick. No audio, just put on Spotify for a minute. Bear back. Well, there's your audio. You get to listen to one of my fucking phone alarms. I can't get the sand out of out of either one of these. I usually can. That is super annoying because the C clips are really difficult to get off of these newbie drone motors. They use a really flat C clip that's tucked all the way up in the bottom of the stator. And so this is going to suck to try to fix these motors. But I don't think I have extras of these motors, so I'm going to have to do it. I'm not going to do it on this live stream, but I am going to pop these two motors off just to remind myself. Because I'm going to get some food after this and hang out with the family. And yeah, I don't want to forget. I wondered why I put this quad in like the fix-it area of my desk. All right, so there we go. Both of those rear motors are off. I'll get those fixed, and we'll be able to fly it next time. We are going to fly a BT 2.0. Well, I hope. I think I fixed this one. This is another one that I got sand in the motors. Now, yeah, this one's good. So I got 3 BT 2.0 batteries. Let's fly them. I think this was the Siren F3. It could also be the grinder. Oh, hold on, I'll be able to tell you. Oh, wait, no. The first file was the Siren F3. There should have been props in view. This is the 1.6 inch O4 build here that started playing. It automatically flipped from one flight file to the next. All right, and 6 2024 frame swapped to the Cockroach V3 HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3s. Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors, one of my brand new red ORT Micro Vs, Runcam Nano 3 and an old school Mobula 6 canopy. This is basically sort of the ultimate indoor freestyle flying tinywhoop. It weighs 17.4 grams. You could argue that this same build, but with a 2G4, is actually the ultimate freestyle tinywhoop. Basically, that's the more durable setup. This is the lighter weight setup. So this is like kind of the ultimate lightweight indoor freestyle tinywhoop. This is going to be a problem. So, last live stream, I had plugged in the cool little external microphone that captures the room noise and the sound of the tinywhoop a little bit better. And then I forgot to turn that microphone off and the Shure MV7 mic back on at the end of that live stream. So I should maybe never turn the Shure microphone off on this scene. And just let, when I remember to plug that other mic in, let both mics run. It sounds so much better with just that other microphone, though, from like a room noise perspective. Oh, God! Let's just run into the fucking massive Plasma TV. Oh, I tried to get through there backwards. Not quite. Not quite. Oh, no, no. Oh, okay. Sort of unplanned, but I'll take it. Oh, no, 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 no. Got on the throttle too early for that power loop, and that gave me too much upwards momentum, and that's why it hit the ceiling. For this move, you gotta wait. Now full throttle. The later you stab full throttle in a power loop, the more horizontal distance you'll cover. The earlier you get on the throttle in a power loop, the more vertical distance you'll cover. So inside the house, you don't have a lot of vertical distance, right? You got like 8 feet here. And so power loops in the house, the key is to be patient. And if you're patient enough, you won't gain a lot of momentum, but you'll throw that bitch all the way across the room. There it is. Damn it. I couldn't decide if I wanted to go out the bottom or out the other side. So I decided to do neither. Neither and both, all at the same time. Oh, it's stuck between a bag and the shelf. That's super random. Alright, one battery off of this. One more battery with this, and we'll be good to go. Enjoy the rest of our Friday nights. Ah, easy, fella. Ah, I haven't done one of those in a while. I'm going to hit that on this next battery. I'll show you what it is. I didn't do a good enough job where you could even really tell what I was doing. Why is the core temperature going crazy? All right, first things first, I'm going to put this thing into turtle mode. So when all of a sudden it's flying weird or the core temperature is going up like that, check for banged up propellers. And the easiest way to do that is with turtle mode. I'm going to show you how. So you flip it into turtle mode, and while you're holding the quad, you spin each motor up slowly. You don't got to spin it up all the way. The vibrations don't happen at full throttle. They happen at like light throttle, cruising throttle. And you just feel for how hard each motor and propeller are vibrating. And in this case, motor and prop number 4 are very smooth. The rest of them are kind of banged up, but they're not that bad. They're not... And you'll... Oh, what's going on with this battery? This battery just came off the charger. Unless I got these batteries confused. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on, please. I might have gotten these batteries confused. I got these batteries confused. Okay, last battery. There we go. Come on now. Come on, ELRS. You can do it. There you go. Yeah, the tune is a little overactive right now. So these horizontal lines, that is a Mobula8 2024 thing. When you make AIOs lighter weight, a lot of times you have to remove capacitors. Why is it on PID profile 2? 1.6, 1.3. Oh, that's weird. Let me just back this tune off. Just one little notch. One little bit. Woo! Still flies fine. Look at the core temperature. Fuck off, core temperature. Get out of here. It's usually not a good sign. Alright, the move I was trying to do is that, like, it's almost like... If I had to give it a name, I would name it the anti-gravity move. And so what you do is it's almost like a power loop, but then you pitch back forward. Nope. You gotta pitch back just the right amount though to cook off the forward momentum that you come into it with. See, I didn't do a good job on that one. And then you gotta pitch forward real sharp as soon as you chop the throttle. This is a move that it would actually benefit me to run higher rates for, but I ain't doing that. There was a half-decent one. It's really difficult because it changes depending on how much momentum you carry into it. And so, like, when you come into it too slowly, that'll happen. When you come into it too fast, I did it just about right on that one. When you come in too fast, you'll get spit out the other side. So it's a tough one. But boy, is it cool looking, right? Ah! Oh, really? I was trying to cut it really close, and I cut it a little too close. 2 minutes of runtime. So this thing is... So that is pretty short. I mean, yeah, it's got 40,000 kV motors, but they're happy model motors that are super efficient. Those are some pretty short run times. I'm running banged up batteries. I'm running my old batteries on it, so that doesn't help. But the fact that we're getting the core temperature warning means that the gyro is kind of freaking out, or the PID loop is freaking out, or somebody's freaking out. And so this thing needs a little bit of love. It's also related to the electrical noise. The electrical noise is not great for like anything, and it'll introduce jitter into the PID loop and whatnot. And so, you know, it's let me actually kick the, let me give it just a little bit more filtering. I'm going to give it a little bit more gyro filtering. That sometimes helps with electrical noise. I probably have the filtering turned way the hell down anyway. And can just add a little bit without negatively affecting anything. So we'll just come in here. We'll just go to here. We'll just go here. Filters and... Oh, wow. I've got the D-term filtering moved way the hell up. Okay. So I'm just going to pull this down. That's fine. I'm going to pull this down to 1.5. That'll probably clean it up. Oh, I've still got the old filtering set up on this. Okay. So I'm actually going to turn this on, and... Okay, hopefully that'll clean this up a little bit. I also need to go into the CLI though and change the gyro filtering bing bong. Hold on, I need to check my stickies real quick. Yeah, there we go. So it's the gyro underscore hardware underscore LPF. Gyro hardware low pass filter. Where you at? Gyro. What? There it is. Let me see what it's on right now. Yeah, it's on option 2. So I need to move that back to normal. So we're going to type set gyro hardware bing bong equals, and then we're going to go to normal. Yep. And we're going to save. And then what frame is this on? This is on a Cockroach V3 frame. And so this, I'm basically going to the quad 6.6 method. I wish I had another charged battery. I'm going to the quad 6.6 method of dialing this thing in, which he did with Black Box. Brandon's method that I just removed there was just a general method for all BMI 270s. Quad 6.6 really hooked us up and did a bunch of black boxing with this Cockroach V3 frame and the Air 65 V2 frame, and he learned some cool stuff. D-term notch. Yeah. So, oh, and I already did that. 140 cutoff. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's right. I had this thing in an Air 65 V2 frame, so I need to change this. Center frequency 160, cutoff 140. Now it's set up for this Cockroach V3 frame. Real quick, like, I think one of these batteries might just have a little bit of juice left. 3.76. That's not that one. 3.84. It's that one. 3.70. Yeah, no, hold on. Let's see super quick. Come on. Get in there. Okay. Last little thing here, I promise. All right. Oh, come on, ELRS. Come on. There it is. Ah! Come on! Yep, that's better. It's less jittery. Cool. There we go. Fixed it. Tuning, yo! It can make a difference. I have these things pretty set pretty aggressively. Perfect time for Canon to shit its pants. Thanks for hanging, friends. Here's a little bit more flying from Castle Crash. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com and support me, or else I'll die. You don't want that on your conscience, do you? Hook a brother up. We'll keep hanging out together forever. And I can test more stuff. Cool? Love you. Bye! See you Sunday. Hey, no stream on Sunday. No stream on Sunday because I will be at Pride Atlanta. There might be a little stream, but probably no stream on Sunday. I'll see you guys Monday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Love you. Bye.